Welcome to the Bookshelf Odyssey podcast. In this podcast, we talk about books, interview authors, and we discuss their journey to becoming published. Each one has a different but amazing story. My hope is to encourage people to keep reading good books and to help authors find their audience and inspire everyone in their journey, whatever that might be. Welcome to the Bookshelf Odyssey podcast. Welcome back to the Bookshelf Odyssey. My name is Art, and I have a very special guest with us today. Her name is Shannon Symonds, and she is a writer of mysteries, and she has a new one coming out called Booked for Murder, and it was just published a few days ago, and it's hot off the presses. And so today we're going to sit down and talk with Shannon and find out about her journey to becoming a writer. So Shannon, welcome to the Bookshelf Odyssey podcast.
Thanks for inviting me.
To start with, though, we got to find out what kind of a reader you are. So what have you been reading lately?
I read a lot of different things. If I'm reading for fun and pleasure, it's cozy mysteries or Agatha Christie, but usually lately it's been, I went through London Lovett's, she had some audiobooks called, I'm going to look at my audio things so I can say it right. And Ellery Adams, I like her book. I really like them. I really like Catherine Cole, and I did some of her historic 1920s cozies. Those were super fun. Verity Bright has some. Anne Sutton's great. And I just I have to do audio because I'm a writer and I'm a social worker. And my doctor says I have to exercise. So while I'm moving, I have audio on a lot. I don't get it. Sundays are like my sit down and actually read a book.
Yeah.
Like a real. But yeah, Lauren Elliott's good. I love her stuff. I just kind of get on a jag. London Lovett, it was, there's Firefly Junction. I love that series. It's hilarious. It's fun. And she did, here's the last one. Let's see if I can get it on. Frostfall Island. Was the name of the series, the Frostfall Island series. And the first four, and it has a beach, so I love it, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you mentioned Ellery Adams. I just read the first book in her book retreat mystery series. Have you read that? It was called Murder in the Mystery Suite.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, it's like this, almost like a hotel bed and breakfast type place that is book themed, which I thought that sounds amazing.
I think I have it, and I heard like the first few minutes, but I haven't finished it yet. Yeah.
And then there's like, it's something that's run by her parents, and they pass it on to her. And it turns out there's like this whole secret society hidden inside this manor, with a secret library full of extremely valuable books.
Okay, now I have to read this.
Yeah, it's like her family's job to protect these ancient manuscripts, like there's a completed copy of like Dickens's The Mystery of Edwin Drood, which he didn't finish in real life, yeah. But in her universe it was finished, and I thought, I want to read that.
Right?
Yeah. So there's like a murder that takes place, and it's a cozy mystery series, but it has a really intriguing kind of world, that she's building. So I'm interested to see where this series will go.
I love them, like some cozy mysteries. Like one of London Lovett's has a ghost, but they're in the house, but nobody's afraid of him.
Yeah,
it's hilarious. It's funny. It's a good laugh. So yeah, that was the Firefly Junction. They're great. I'm
jotting these all down because I love to add to my TBR. It's
right.
It's just, I'm never going to finish it. So
Catherine Coles and Anne Sutton and I did a little thing where authors went into Zoom breakout rooms and chatted, and I got to know them after a couple of hours. So I read their books, of course, and hers are, if you like historic, they're like 1920s. They're great. She lives in England. I love like Agatha Christie, Equation by Jane Austen. I love those kinds of novels. I love manners. Manners are good. Castles are better.
Yeah, so I could see why Agatha Christie would be right in your wheelhouse there. Yeah.
for. I was a weird kid. I read very early on. I was raised in the summers and all the off seasons by my aunts, great aunts, my grandmother. They were all teachers. So I don't know if that's why. I don't remember learning to read. I just read. And on rainy days at the beach, I would go through the bookshelf at the beach house. And they had the Agatha Christie's in it. And they had all the good stuff. So I read Ozma of Oz, Wizard of Oz. And I'm like, I'm over it. And I was into Agatha Christie, like as many as I could get my hands on. I think it was 9 when I started. Yeah.
I got into Sherlock Holmes. I was maybe about 12 or 13. I had picked up a book of mystery short stories, and that was one of his short stories was in there. And I'm like, oh, I've heard of Sherlock Holmes, because I read the Hardy Boys as a kid. So
oh yeah.
Yeah.
And Nancy Drew.
Yep.
Both, all of them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was going to ask, have you been a lifelong reader? Sounds like you've just been in the books since an early age.
I'm a little freaky. In kindergarten, they would bring the high schoolers over to work with me, and they would make me read the encyclopedia for entertainment. I really don't know when I started, and I'm not good at anything else. So it's nice to have one superpower. I can read.
There you go. That's the way it works. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember I was, you do the school testing and stuff. And I was in grade school and I was testing better at reading than the high schoolers were.
Yep.
And
it's hard. Sadly, they're not doing as well as they should be.
Yeah. Even, 30, 40 years ago, it was still, I think there was some trouble with reading in schools. And then my kids, we homeschooled them for up until just a few years ago. They're finishing up high school in the public school.
I'm jealous. That sounds fun. I've always wanted to homeschool.
It's hard work. And I say we, but my wife did, the lion's share of it. She's a trained educator, and she really enjoyed doing that. My oldest son, when he went to high school, we had one teacher in particular who couldn't believe he was homeschooled. He's so smart. He's so well read. He's so this and that. It's like, well, what do you think we do? Yeah.
Some of our homeschool kids at the school here are fabulous. And my friend's son is going to school for the first time in high school, and he's like that. But they did the sports. They let them do the sports in junior high and high school while they're homeschooling, which is kind of nice.
Yeah. We just got our kids reading at an early age. I read to them aloud, which I love doing.
Right. I'm always borrowing my grandchildren. Come up here and let me read to you. I know that when my oldest was like brand new, like 2 weeks old, maybe really new, we went to a cabin in a place called Star Valley, Wyoming that my dad had. And I was a young mother. And so I took her and my bag of books up, and I'm on the couch by the fireplace and I'm reading to her, and she's watching the book. And he's like, why are you reading to this baby? This is ridiculous. I said, not only am I reading, but we're counting things. And this baby's going to be a genius. And she is, totally is. It makes a huge difference. And now I'm an early childhood educator, so I can tell you for sure it matters.
Well, yeah, good. It does. We've noticed that with our kids, and I'm not educated to know like all the ins and outs of what it does, but from what I understand, it really helps your brain develop when you hear the voice and hear the reading and hear the stories.
Your brain is kind of like a tree.
Yeah.
And kids are just like our dogs and our cats. They understand way more words, than they can say or ever will be able to say, right? They're that little. But when you start reading to them, you're like planting the roots, you're building the tree. And the more you add to it, you're just building fertile ground for them to learn more easily. I guess if you've ever seen people like they learned to ice skate when they were 4, so now they're just a savant, you're just building that foundation. But if you don't keep exposing kids to something, like if you stop reading or if you stop speaking Spanish, whatever it is you're working on, our brains prune the trees. And that's what's wrong with me. I'm older and I only have the reading branch, right? I think the math one is gone.
Yep.
Thankfully.
We've been noticing that both my wife and I turned 45 this year, and it's getting harder to memorize. She's teasing me about how I'm leaving my keys everywhere. She said, I'm going to get you one of those tracking devices and attach it to your car keys.
I actually like went back to college a couple of years ago for kicks and giggles, like in the middle of COVID,
Uh-huh.
and took a year of school, and there was calculus. I was like, oh my gosh. But they would let you take the test over and over. And I was sick when I took the final. So I think it was only 20 times and then I got it done.
Mm.
But I want an A.
Oh yeah, my wife. I think it was right when COVID started. She went has been getting her master's degree
Oh,
online,
that's great.
and she's almost done now. But yeah, she said it was really kind of hard at first. It was like, getting the rust out, and then
Yeah.
finally into it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a gift of COVID though, because I had always wanted to go to this university and they didn't have any online or any off campus. And they told me, if you want a degree, you have to come be on this campus. And I'm like, I
Mm.
have 6 kids. What dorm room is going to hold my 6 kids on my So I think that's a gift that we got, is to be able to educate at a distance.
Yeah, and they still make it work.
I actually love it. I'm kind of a book nerd, and I
Great.
love antique books. If I
Hmm.
go to garage sales or thrift stores, or if I see a thrift store or garage sale, I will go just to look through the books and find old. And I don't keep them all. Like sometimes I'll find one. Like I found Vanity Fair, and I knew who would love it, and it was like a first edition, and so
Oh
I gave it
wow.
to them. But it was just the find. It's the hunt.
Hmm.
I really love it, and I love the
Hmm.
books.
My favorite classic writer is Dickens, and so if I'll go to the bookstore, yard sale, whatever, same. If I see a Dickens, I'll probably buy it. So I've got like
For sure.
5 copies of the same, but it's different editions. Like I don't have this one though.
Look nice on my shelf.
Right? Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
also collect like old Bibles.
Mm,
And my son came back from Germany, and it's kind of started with this. He was over there and they were throwing away stuff out of this church basement, and one of them was a Gutenberg Bible.
oh wow.
Yeah. And it's not that old. It was like the turn of the century, like 1900, but it
Okay.
had notes tucked in it. And
Mm,
he shipped it home. So I had it and all these notes, and I'm thinking, wow, what do these notes say? Honey, I love you. I miss you, because it was right all around the war. They were dated,
hmm.
right? My son came home and I said, so read this note to me. And he goes, this is a grocery list, Mom.
Yeah.
Such a romantic. I was sure it was love letters.
That's the writer in you. It's like I gotta create this story around.
Right.
Yeah, I have a couple old Bibles as well. One that I'm so glad to own. It was an old family Bible
Oh, nice.
from like late 1800s, early 1900s,
Mhm.
I think. But it has the family tree in it. And it has like lists of all my names of ancestors and all that were born around that time, and which I know they would do back then. So it's got a real personal connection. It's got my great great grandmother's handwriting in it.
I
I'm
love that
assuming.
stuff.
So yeah.
You're suckers around here for sentimentality. My daughter's moved in with me during COVID, because
Hmm.
that's how it went. So there's a whole new family in my house with me.
Hmm.
And she's a minimalist. And I'm
Mm.
like, I'm Miss Marple, minimalist. And you will not get rid of my tea set. And you will not get I have some artwork. Like I have a page out of one of the original, when they first began to translate the Bible. I cannot remember right now what the name of it is. These were illegal. And this one
Mm.
was printed in England. And if you had a copy, you would be killed. And they're quite large, and they're like the first, edition. And I couldn't afford one because like they're thousands if you
Mm.
find one. But somebody was selling the pages. I have a framed page. He says, why do you have this? I'm like, don't touch that. You gotta keep that.
Uh-huh. I mean, yeah, I got a couple of books that are so old. I probably can't read it without it falling apart. But
Yeah.
I'm so glad I own it. It's got some history to it.
I keep thinking someday I should become an antiquarian, and but first you have to have the first book that's worth lots and lots. And you
Right.
have to sell it then. And I don't know if I want to do that.
Right. Yeah. I
Rainy day savings account.
I'm not I'm not so interested in selling them. I like them for my own personal use, or
Yeah.
display or whatever. Yeah.
They just make me happy. I think I don't know how you are, but I can remember as a kid, and this will sound weird. So maybe if this is a fetish, excuse me. I remember opening books and just smelling them.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's
Yep.
just like, yeah. And then there's something about old books too. Even though they don't smell as good. They're
Right.
fun.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. There's a bookstore in Omaha I go to that is a used bookstore, but you walk in and it just smells of old books. I mean, it's permeated the store. Yeah.
Old books, crayons, and oil paints. Those all make me happy. I know there's a bookstore in Portland that I love going to. And the last time I went was right before COVID. And I haven't had time to go in because when you go in, it's like an all-day thing. It's huge. It's massive. And it's called Powell's Books.
Mm-hmm.
I got my books in there once, and that was really exciting for me. And I went out to dinner with the gal that gets to pick the books. That was fun.
Yeah.
But it's a big, huge bookstore, and it's got new and used. And there's just everything in it. And it's really interesting. If you ever go to Portland, Oregon, you should go to Powell's Bookstore.
I should. I've heard of it, but I've never gone. So
yeah,
my dad lives out in Oregon, so I might need to go visit him. It's kind of in mountainous area, he said.
Yeah, because I don't recognize. Yeah, it's probably a smaller town then, right?
Yeah. Last time I went to see him, he was living in a different place, and then my stepmom passed away, and then he retired and moved up to the mountains and is living happily. So
That's funny. I mean, we stick to the coast a lot, but it's hard. It's hard to get into Portland in the winter. The roads will just close. Trees will drop. I remember being in Portland during the winter once, and it was gorgeous weather, beautiful weather. And we're out there just to shop to get, things that you can't get on the coast because your town is so dinky, or you'll pay $3 million for it. And so we load the car up, and at 2:00 we head over the mountain because we want to get back before it freezes or anything goes wrong, because it was winter. And the city was beautiful, and we hit the bottom of that hill, and we were up there about a third of the way, and they closed the road. There was so much snow. Cars were off the road everywhere, and luckily we had a 4-wheel drive. It took me 4 hours to go 1 hour the distance.
Wow.
So, yeah, so we get out there in like summer, and then we don't unless it's an airport.
Got it. Okay, plan for a summer trip. All right. Well, Dad, I'm coming. Hold on.
It's beautiful. You should come.
Now, are you currently located out west?
Yeah, I was born in Portland, but everybody was teachers, and we have a family beach house about 4 blocks away from me that's up on the water that my great-grandmother bought in 1920 with her 5 school teaching daughters. Together, school teachers, all of them in the Portland School District, because they had to spread out because there was not enough jobs out here. But they bought this house and rolled it right up on the water on logs. And people thought they were crazy. Why would you want your house on the beach? It's so hard on your house, and it is like wind and rain. But they loved it, and they'd always wanted to do it. They actually crossed the whole country in a roadster, 1920s roadster together.
Wow.
And they got this house, they got jobs, and then they bought a house it's called Peacock Lane. It's like this big Christmas street that people always drive. Bought one on Mount Hood together, and they traveled the world together. But in the summers, we would go with them. There's a bunk room for the cousins. There was like 8 of us when I was younger, and then 13 eventually. And we'd sleep in the bunk room and spent the summers there without shoes. It was great. It rained, we didn't read. Yeah. I lived like a block off the beach, so a little back. This is the weather.
As a teenager, I lived in Washington State.
Oh, it's pretty.
And so gorgeous. And a couple places we lived, but almost always we were within walking distance to the beach. Or it probably be a good walk, a mile or so, but I mean it was readily accessible. Although one place we lived in was right on a bluff overlooking a beach, and it's like, I can't believe I live here. Yeah, it's a trailer, but look at the view. I know. Yeah,
I know. I always call it the money pit. When we bought this house, it was so ugly. It's a 1896, but they had updated it, So I've been trying to take away the update for years.
Unupdating, yeah.
But we can walk to the beach. It's like 5 houses that way. And, I can hear the ocean at night most of the time in the winter. And then my family all comes up to vacation right down the road. So
yep, there you are. This is what happens when you get a couple of book nerds together. We're gonna talk all day about all the books we like. Well, that's fine. I love the conversations are never the same with my guests. So, but let's talk a little bit about your new book, Booked for Murder. What can you tell us about it?
Well, it is hopefully the first book in a series. If it gets good attention and people love it, then it will be for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So far, the reviews are 5 stars. That makes me happy. I'm just waiting for them to come. Booked for Murder is a cozy mystery. My protagonist, my main characters tend to be strong women, but in tough situations, because I think every main character should be real or flawed. You know, you don't want Harry Potter to be Harry Potter, the perfect student, right?
Right.
Don't
Right.
want, in Star Wars, Luke is very flawed.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of a brat in the beginning, actually.
Yeah.
And so, I don't want to read about perfect people because I'm not. I'm way not perfect. I'm a klutz and I'm a nerd,
Mm-hmm.
And so she is a research librarian and actually got her degree at Harvard. But she, somebody she really loved got married, and she marries the wrong person during COVID. And so I won't give you too many spoilers, but she's been in hiding. And the first chapter probably isn't really representative of the book, but it's her frustration with herself. And she's leaving the shelter, but she's got a new identity, and they've set her up. And he was in law enforcement, so she has to be very careful. Everything's redone, her degree, everything. And you can do that. I used to do it for people in my job, so it's super fun. So it's something I know. So she takes buses, lays a trail, and then she gets on a bus in Eastern Oregon, like a one-way from Idaho. And she's trying to sleep. The bus is nearly empty. She doesn't want to talk to anybody. She's got her hood up, backpack on the window to sleep, like a pillow. And an old woman gets on the bus and, of course, sits exactly right next to her. And she's just like, oh. She closes her eyes and pretends she's asleep. And then she can hear this click, 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 click. And she looks at me, she's knitting. So she's trying not to pay attention. And she can't, and then finally she says, what are you knitting? And then, it kind of takes over. And they talk. And, of course, she's trying not to tell her the truth, but she's trying to give her enough, because it really bothers her that she can't tell the truth. Everybody always asks her, where are you going? So the woman's name is Agnes, and she comes from a place called Balefire Bay, which is a small town patterned after a town up here. And if you guess, I will send you a free book. One person, first one. So she tells her, you don't want to live in Portland, because she was heading, Ivy, her name was Ivy Kelly, was heading for Portland. And she'd been there as a young person. And she says, no, during COVID, it became just a mess. Lots of homelessness. Housing is too expensive. And it is. It's very expensive right now. And she says, yeah, well, it's close to the beach. And she says, no, it's not. It's 2 hours away. And so she talks her into coming to Balefire Bay because she owns the tea shop, part of the tea and book shop. She owns the tea part, and her friend owns the book part, and it's a big open space. And they have a friend in their little book club who's an author, she says, and he's built a house with a library in it, and he has collected books, antiquarian. He's got all the old and the rare, and she says he has a lot of books, and he wants this library put together, and he wants someone to help him with his rare books, to organize them, price them, inventory them for insurance. And so she thinks, well, I mean, she's just hesitant. She doesn't trust anybody. The gal's name is Bates. And then she has a son who's in law enforcement, which is risky. And I won't tell you what happens, but when she gets there, the author is somebody that it's worth taking a little risk to work for her. And he has built a house that's sort of a mashup of Harry Potter and Downton Abbey up on a cliff by a lighthouse. Yeah. And so somebody's already died, and everything's already kind of set in motion by then. But she's woven this really great identity, right? And for him, she pulls one little thread, and then it just starts unraveling. That's how it works.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Oh, wow. That sounds amazing.
I hope so. It's got some suspense, it's got some thriller, but like all cozies, there's absolutely no foul language, no onstage sex. And I
Hmm.
can't because I have a 96-year-old aunt who will mark all those pages and talk to me about them. And then she won't read anymore. And yeah, it's not really blood, guts, and gory. It's,
Yeah.
there are some spots where you're like holding your breath, I hope.
Hmm.
Yeah, but yeah,
Yeah.
I hope it's a wild ride.
Well, that's one of the things I love about cozies. It's, I don't want to sound like a prude, but I always joke I am. There's just not a lot of stuff in there that makes me uncomfortable or whatever.
I'm
No.
probably a prude. I think the world, you can have that if you want it, but I have
Yeah.
a house full of kids and grandkids and cousins and moms and the 96-year-old aunt, and they're all readers. Like
Right.
my 11-year-old granddaughter's read all my books, and I want her to be able to. I don't want to be able to say, here, not that page, rip, not that page.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah.
I want it to be something they can take to school and be proud of. And it's super fun when I get reviews by young people. So
Oh,
Murder Takes a
sure.
Selfie, the first series, has
Hmm.
17-year-old and adults in it. And so kids really like it. And yeah, super
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. I was gonna ask, what else have you written? Your book, Murder Takes a Selfie. That's part of another series.
Yeah, it's the Cozy Mysteries by the Sea. And it
Hmm.
was my first cozies. I'd written some women's fiction before that and a book about kind of a suspense mystery thriller. But I really fell in love with cozy mysteries and I love mystery. So I wanted to write one. And during COVID, I quit a job like the day before we went to quarantine. I was like, oh, bad decision. I called unemployment. I said, can you do unemployment? I hear that they've got these programs for idiots like me. And she says, well, are you self-employed? And I said, oh, sort of. I sell books, but that's hit and miss.
Yeah.
This month I sold a lot, next month not. And she goes, oh, you can't have unemployment because you're self-employed.
Oh.
And I was like, well, that's bad news. I'm the main breadwinner here. And so I said, shoot. I said, I'm just a little author, not a big author. And she said, what did you write? And we got into this conversation over the phone, and she sent me a grant.
Mm.
To be a self-employment grant. I had to put together a business plan, say how much I would write, how much I'd publish. So I did. It's 87 pages.
Mm.
And then I wrote 4 books in 4 months. It's super fun.
Mm.
And it was that series. So it's a series about a group of young people, seniors in high school, and their family and their friends and the librarian that's around. And the main character, once again, is flawed. Her family had moved to the coast. Her mother is an advocate, like I was, who worked with survivors, but they'd moved to the coast and started this whole new life. And she just wanted to leave that all behind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you find out at the very beginning of the book, you don't see it, but it's just happened. Her dad showed up at the house uninvited and wanted to take her. Police were called. The whole town knows about it, and she's outed on social media. And she's a librarian, so she's just appalled. She's hating all the pretty girls and the handsome boys because they all hate her, she thinks.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of the book, I want you to love the people that you thought were murderers. I want you to care about the people that you thought you'd hate, the normal ones. So I want to take your world and every single book and turn it upside down. And it's kind of a conversation, I think, besides the mystery, about people.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make all kinds of assumptions on the outside, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes inside they are amazing, which is my experience in working with people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, same with interviewing people. I tend to gravitate towards mystery writers and kind of cozy mystery writers even, but for a group of people that essentially write not the same book,
Murder.
Well, they're writing about murder, but making it cozy. I mean, murder isn't cozy, but all of them.
I call it tidy. It's tidy murder.
Tidy. There you go.
All my killings are tidy.
You all have a different story, a different background, a different journey. It's just amazing and inspiring to learn.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a hard subject for some people, but I try not to make it a hard subject. I don't dwell on the hard parts. I dwell on the overcoming and the solving the mystery and being strong, that way. Because I think I worked with police, with survivors for
Hmm.
almost 15 years. And, at the scene, in the hospital, you
Mm.
know, out doing it. And I just fell in love with the people I worked with
Mm.
and people that, like uh, we have a trailer park. It's horrendous. Like
Hmm.
nobody could live in this trailer. And yet I met this girl in there who got this massive scholarship, not just one, four, like $200,000 in
Wow.
scholarships. Yeah, and a soccer scholarship. And my kids were in there getting their scholarships because my daughter got scholarships. And we were having the honors dinner, and she gave the rest of them back and
Mm.
asked them to give them to other local kids.
Mm.
I mean, who does that? This is
Right.
a great kid, brilliant. And you would not know if you met her on the street or in the park. Yeah, I love characters like that. And I love, yeah, one of mine's Grandma Mabel, and she's actually based on my Aunt Mabel. And
Okay.
she dyes her hair red, and man, she steps up, she'll tell you how it is, and you're thinking, here's this old lady, and she's just doing it, and
Yeah.
have a fun time. She's the humor, I hope, in the story. So
It's funny. I just saw a lady at Walmart today. She was quite elderly, completely snow white hair, except she had a purple streak right down the middle of her hair. I said,
I need
I
to do
love your
I just
hair.
need to do that.
Yes. She said,
Wow.
yeah, I'm just trying to bring a little cheer to my day, you know?
My grandmother and her four sisters were all teachers, and they all, at the end of their life, were dyeing their hair red.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. They like traveled the world together as this group. They go on
Hmm.
cruises and all over.
Hmm.
Spoke some language. They were great, and the red hair was I just loved it.
Hmm.
Loved it. They sewed matching caftans once for this trip. Very funny.
That's great.
That's what Mabel's based on. One of them, and I always tell this because I just love it. She summited Mount Hood in her 40s. Two of them did
Hmm.
in their 40s, and she was a chain smoker. So I'm not really sure how she did
Oh my. Extra oxygen along or something. I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know.
it's a big mountain to summit. So anyway, so Grandma Mabel's like that.
Wow. And then Aunt Mabel is in the Booked for Murder book.
Yeah,
Is that right?
Grandma
Okay.
Mabel. Yeah, yeah.
Grandma Mabel. Okay.
But it's not based on my Aunt Mabel.
On your aunt.
She's
Okay,
long
got it.
gone, but I loved her. She had a pink car with the big fins on the back, pink convertible.
Nice.
Yeah, I liked riding that car.
Yeah, I bet.
Mhm.
Oh, all right. Well, I think this would make a great Christmas gift for the mystery lover in your family. Now, you had mentioned that you have a Christmas book as well. You want to?
Yeah, the last book in the Cozy Mysteries series I wrote it to be a standalone. It's not really even attached to the series on Amazon or Barnes and Noble because I want it to be a standalone book.
Mhm.
Because it's a Christmas story. And it should have just the most happy ending you can ever imagine, right?
Mhm.
And so I wrote it, and it was supposed to come out at the 1st of November and be launched. And Amazon had this huge backup, and probably because it was COVID and everybody was writing, so many of us were writing, just flooded the market. And usually you turn it in and it gets out in a few days, and it took weeks. And so it came out like 4 days before Christmas.
Hmm.
So I hardly got to spend any time sharing it with people. So this year I thought I just want to throw it out there, and it's going very well. Lots of people are reading it, and I think I gave away 3,000 copies in the fall, just for fun. So I priced it at 99 cents for the Kindle because I think those are the best books. And
Mhm.
it's called Seaside Murder Before Christmas. And it's about the same group of kids and people. And it takes place, two of the girls get a job for Christmas break in a bookstore, a new bookstore. And it's rival to their old favorite bookstore. And then somebody at the old favorite bookstore, has a tidy murder. There's antique books and baking. There's a bakery attached to the bookstore because you have to have baked goods.
Oh yeah.
So I like baked goods. I can't have any gluten and dairy, but man, I can make some mean rolls without them. Some really good ones. So that's kind of the location of the story. It doesn't snow often out here, but it snows. It's on the coast. All of the storms in my books, all of the extra things that happen because you're on the coast, anything that's in a boat. I've been
Mm-hmm.
there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm writing what I know.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, oh, that didn't happen, that storm. I'm like, yeah, that's how it happened. So,
Yeah.
so the snowstorm in this book, and yeah, it was super fun. It was a
Yeah.
good one.
Yeah.
And Grandma
Um,
Mabel.
yeah. It does. It does occasionally snow. And then the entire region panics and we don't know what to do with this.
The first snowflake, they just shut everything down. And I'm like, yeehaw, because I've lived like where I skied. I like snow, right?
Uh-huh.
So I'm just like anything for a snow day. I can stay home and read.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had when we moved out to Washington, we came from Illinois, so
Oh,
um,
you know snow.
yeah, we snow was part of
Mhm.
life, and I
Mhm.
remember the first winter out there. You know, everyone's like, "Oh, it's not going to snow like you think." It's we're not the Midwest, and but sure enough, they had an ice storm come through, knocked the power out for 2 or 3 days. And I
Yeah.
thought, like, this is great. You know, in Illinois, they would have just had it fixed within the day, but
We've got the fireplace going. I don't care if there's no power. The fire's going. We're reading. It's great.
yep,
So
yep.
I know one Christmas for Christmas stories, I had kids away at college. And I
Hmm.
had one way down California on a scholarship and one out in Idaho. And they were riding home with friends, and the storm was coming. And they were on the front of this, right through it, this huge storm in this car with bare bald tires. I was panicked. And I had a Jeep with good four-wheel drive because you have to be able to drive when you're here.
Hmm.
And went over the mountain to meet her in Portland. And it was the most hair-raising drive home. Like it was just, I couldn't believe I was still moving. I thought we should just park until spring. This is all we got in. And then my other daughter called me and she says, I'm on Highway 30 and they've closed the road, but it's okay. We're just going to keep going. She's in Volkswagen Rabbit. I'm like, just stay there. We'll come get you. And she goes, no, we're almost to the big bridge. The Megler Bridge is huge and it's way high in the air. And then there's this big dive.
Hmm.
Like, don't go on that bridge. Don't go on that bridge. So they called the other kids' parents to come and get him. And then the city was shut down for a week at least in Portland, 2 weeks. Like no mail.
Hmm.
Everything was down. You just don't move. Yeah.
Right.
And we always have food stored and people come over because we have lights and hot water.
we
So,
we need the internet. I don't know.
actually, the internet was okay. But
Okay.
the only phone line that worked in one of our storms was cell phones. And
Mm.
they were only in one spot. So there's a sidewalk along the beach and
Hmm.
there's a bench and there were people lined up down the road waiting to stand on the bench to make a call. Because when you stood on that bench, you could get a call.
That's great. Well, most of the snowstorms I've experienced either out in the West Coast or in the Midwest, it was before the time of cell phones and internet and all that. So, we really we were really, roughing it.
Yeah, right. It's
Yeah.
tough, especially if you're older. We had a huge storm in 2007. Huge. They
Mm,
couldn't even get, like the governor was trying to fly over. It took 2 days before they could even get a plane in the air.
mm,
It landed 50-foot piles of trees on the highway. It looked like somebody took their hand over the mountains and just broke the trees off at about 14 feet.
mm,
And just, it was huge. And the tsunami alerts were going off. Trees were snapping in the night, right?
mm-hmm,
And yeah, it was like there was one phone that worked in town and I had it.
mm,
It was an old phone I'd picked up at an antique store because I think I miss Marple.
mm.
And somebody had painted it and it was super cute. And I had people like lined up at my house to use that one phone. And
Yeah.
I had an older man. He's passed away now, Mr. Year Out. And I had 17 girls, high school girls, all sleeping in front of my fireplace.
Yeah.
He didn't have a fireplace. So we ended up bringing him over. He was freezing to death.
Oh,
But small towns pull together. So
that's
it was
right.
good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We live in a small town here, and what was it, a year or two ago, we had something come through that was called a derecho, which
Ooh,
I had never heard of that term before.
I
It
haven't.
similar to like a hurricane, but in a landlocked situation. I don't know. It was just like hurricane force
Like the
winds.
wall of wind.
Yeah, kind of something like that. It just came
Everyone,
through and just
they're huge.
knocked everything over. Yeah.
Uh, it took all the paint off the front of my Volkswagen van.
Oh wow.
Literally, we pitted the windows. Yeah. Yeah. We were in the Midwest for a little while.
Oh sure. Yeah. But just as soon as the storm is over, people are out with their chainsaws and they're riding around in golf carts and four wheelers, seeing who needs
Yeah.
help and
Yeah.
letting people use their chainsaws or cutting trees down for them. And yeah.
I happened to have two chainsaws I'd bought at a garage sale.
Mm.
And the one was the last chainsaw working, but everybody was together going because you had to cut the trees down off the houses, out of the roads, make sure everybody was okay in the house. And my kids had a ball.
Yeah.
We let them go with chainsaws and people.
Right.
They were all in high school. It was like, this is great.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see that now. Yeah.
Yeah. One of my friends had a ham radio. All the 911 was out. All the police contact was out.
Oh,
It was
wow.
the first time, I think, in our county. They'd done this ham radio thing. And so a bunch of them had licenses. My husband had one. And the ham radio folks somehow got to the police stations because travel was, I had to go up to the homeless shelter to do some work. It was almost impossible. It was dangerous. And they had a ham radio at every police station. And the officers, they figured out a system to get 911 going. And that's a small town. And they still use it to this day. Yeah.
That's inspiring. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Shannon, here before we go, would you have any word of advice for a new writer, somebody who's wanting to get into the industry? Maybe a lesson you wish your younger self would have known.
When I wrote my first book, people told me I would be rejected thousands of times. There is no hope. I don't know why you're doing this. But I had just quit that job, and I loved working with people. And it was actually written for a congregation because I thought we need to be nicer to each other. And that's kind of part of my thing is I want you to fall in love with these people so that you do see people differently. And so I'm writing it in this silo out here all alone in the winter by the fire. And the first person I sent it to took it. Well, actually, the first person gave me to the second person. And I can remember sitting in my kitchen all alone. And I didn't know how to write a book. I didn't know. I had been writing self-help articles, short stuff, right? Blogs. And it was 8:04 in the evening and I hit send and then they took it and they wanted to know how I was going to market it. And I'm like, market it? Do you market your books? They invited me to come on a TV show and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I live on the coast. And now I'm like, you're an idiot. So my advice would be, don't believe the naysayers. Just do what you love. Write what you love, write about what you know, and take the risk and leap. And still, after 9 books, like my first one out right now, I'm holding my breath till the reviews come in, and there's got to be enough reviews. And, but you know what? I had fun writing it. Have a good time writing it. Put your heart and soul into it. Enjoy it and send it out in the world. And I really believe that we are in a time and a place where who cares if they don't take it? Put it up yourself and share it with the world and figure out something about marketing. That would have been good to know. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever, anyone wants to come on a podcast, my door is open. So
I could have used that.
Yeah. Well, happy to be of service. Yeah. Well, Shannon, thank you so much for coming on today, sharing all kinds of stories. And I am excitedly waiting for your to get into your book. So that's going to be some of my Christmas reading this year.
You probably have a 10-foot TBR pile, but
yeah,
I hope you like it.
My TBR can be kind of ridiculous at times, but I'll make time for it.
I have one too.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. And anybody else, I want you to know that the Christmas book is on Kindle, 99 cents. And just look up Shannon Symonds, spelled with a Y, because we have to make it difficult. And I just want people to have it. So it's as cheap as Amazon will let me make it. It'd be free if they would let me, but they won't.
Yeah, 99 cents is a good deal for a book. So But you've said you've got 9 books that you've written, so plenty to choose from. But I certainly want to recommend Booked for Murder.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. My newsletter people picked that name out.
Okay, fun. You got a community effort.
Yeah. About 10,000 people. I had a ton of them vote. First, they sent me names, voted on the names.
Mm-hmm.
I had a different title. Nobody voted for my title. Nobody. Just one, and actually, it's much better than what I had. So,
all right. Well, you take care, and since it's almost Christmas time, I hope you and your family have a Merry Christmas.
How can you not? It's Christmas.
Exactly.
And you get to eat all you want.
That's right. Calories don't count in December, right?
Or on Sundays. Calorie-free Sunday, calorie-free Christmas.
That's about right. All right. Well, thanks for being on the show today.
That's fun.
Thank you for listening to the Bookshelf Odyssey podcast. You can check out the show notes to find out all the information, links, and books that we referenced in today's episode. If you'd like to help support the show, I'd love for you to share on your social medias, tell your bookworm friends, and help us get the word out. If you'd like to help out in a financial way, there are links in the show notes where you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com. You can find all episodes at bookshelfodyssey.com. And please follow us on my social medias. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Follow us there for more bookish content. And so until next time, happy reading, everyone, and take care.